that changed in this whole thing. The younger population, more complex needs around addiction and mental illness. And they really hadn't changed with the times in terms of their support structure or their operating. So they decided that they needed someone else to do it. The history is not complete here, as you all know who work in this building, or because I noticed some folks here from the PHS I work there. This building definitely needs a solution, and something we're working on in terms of a full renovation or development of this building. We did have a development at this site in the early 2000, and we had an allocation from the BC Housing. We were going to convert the 120 SRO units into 55 self-contained units. We had a development permit. We had a housing allocation from BC Housing, and this was at the time when we had core review, a change of government in BC, and the project was cancelled. So if we jump forward, by 2005, more than half of the remaining low-income housing stock in the downtown east side were non-market housing, which today is even greater proportion with the continued renovation and development of social housing. And I can't but show one example of that is the glorious Pennsylvania Hotel, and very proud of it in terms of a renovation of an SRO. But unfortunately, the non-market proportion is greater because, but unfortunately the non-market proportion is greater because of losses in the private SRO stock. So the loss has meant that despite new projects, we are faced with a decrease in low-income housing in the downtown east side from its historical high of around 14,000 units in 1970. So over the decades, we really need to sort of note that we've had some success stories in Vancouver. Places like Mole Hill, which is a collection of old rooming houses that were going to be stratified at one point or turned into a park at one point, a sort of urban slum clearance in the West End, and a modern day version of it. And luckily through a ton of community support, and these buildings were renovated and now have a subsidy from BC Housing and provide about 126 units of self-contained housing, smaller units and larger units within these 26 heritage homes in the West End, and is run by a non-profit housing society. You know, we have another success right here, the Woodwards. Although it's controversial in terms of being part of this mixed-use project where we've got 500 condos, we've got 125 of some of the best quality social housing you can find in Canada, I think, in this building. So, we're very proud of it. We also have some projects still in the pipe for Vancouver, including one that we're dealing with at 111 Princess Street. And it's going to be 144 units. Any day we should get going on this one, but this my mind is going crazy about it. But the soil's kind of toxic, and so there's been and so there's we don't want to poison anyone who moves into this building. So it's been a complex debate around what to do in terms of mitigating the contamination of soil. It's just a floor plan of what some of the units will look like. And it'll be about 144 units of supportive housing. But like I said, we continue to witness the challenges of inadequate new supply of low-income housing. Losses in the privately owned rental housing stock continue, which has meant places like this. And a real reason why shelters and the provision of shelters in Vancouver is still a necessary part of the housing strategy in Vancouver and across Canada, I would say. And places like the Newfoundland Shelter are full every night. And we have to make space in the hallways sometimes to accommodate everyone we need to. We do have the right solutions, and there are many examples. I showed a few, and across Canada there are many of them. And they generally are community-oriented social housing and supportive housing projects. And our challenge, though, is to produce enough of them and to protect what we have. And really, we really need the federal government to get back into housing. And if not, we may just sort of end up going down this path where we're going to have to take the Woodward's parking lot, which is about this size, and start converting it into housing, which might be a good thing, but an unfortunate sort of path. Anyways, thank you.